It was a quiet Sunday night on the 1st of February 2004. Carly Brucia, a bright-eyed 11-year-old from Sarasota, Florida, was walking home from a sleepover at her friend's house. She'd driven this route before, taking familiar shortcuts around town. It was Super Bowl Sunday, and she was excited to get home to watch the game with her family. But as the sun began to set, Carly's routine walk took an unexpected and terrifying turn. Carly was the kind of girl who brought light wherever she went. Friends described her as gentle and loving, with a warmth that could lift anyone's spirits. Her family meant the world to her, and she looked forward to a cozy evening at home. But as Carly walked along the car wash path, a shortcut she often took, a man appeared in the frame of a security camera. He was tall, with an intimidating presence, dressed in dark clothes. The footage showed him approaching Carly and then grabbing her arm. Within seconds, the two were out of sight, leaving nothing but a chilling silence. As the evening grew darker, Carly's mother, Susan, began to worry. Carly was rarely late, and Susan had always been concerned for her daughter's safety. She began making phone calls, first to friends, then to neighbors. Each call only added to her anxiety, as no one had seen Carly since she left her friend's house. By the time the sun had completely set, the Brucia household was gripped with fear. Susan knew deep down that this wasn't like her daughter at all. So she picked up the phone and dialed 911, her voice breaking as she told the dispatcher,
911, what's the location of the emergency?
My daughter is missing.
What's your address, ma'am?
She's gone. We can't find her anywhere. I've called all her friends.
How old is she?
11.
Okay, what's her name, ma'am?
Carly, C-A-R-L-I-E.
And last name?
Brucia, B-R-U-C-I-A.
The police soon arrived, and the search for Carly became official. Officers canvassed the neighborhood, knocking on doors and interviewing anyone who might have seen her. As the hours passed, the investigation turned to nearby businesses. They hoped cameras might provide a clue and struck gold at a car wash. Officers gathered around a monitor to watch the footage. What they saw shook them to the core. The sight of a man leading Carly away by the arm, her face reflecting a fleeting moment of terror. The video was broadcast on local news channels, sending shockwaves through the community. Within hours, tips were pouring in, pointing to one man in particular, Joseph Smith. At 37, Smith was already known to law enforcement for his troubled past, riddled with arrests and violence. His life was a pattern of wrong turns, failed attempts at recovery, and brushes with the law. When the police knocked on his door, they found Smith defensive and nervous. He claimed he had been at home watching the Super Bowl with friends, trying to keep his story together. But the detectives knew better. They were determined to find the truth. Then came a crucial clue. A friend of Smith's admitted that Smith had borrowed his car that night, a yellow Buick station wagon, and returned it with over 300 unexplained miles on the odometer. This tip sparked a massive search, with law enforcement and volunteers combing Sarasota's woods, swamps, and fields. They searched tirelessly for days, knowing that every moment counted in bringing Carly home. But despite their best efforts, there was no sign of her. The days became a blur of search parties and endless questions. Then a phone call shattered the silence. Smith's brother, John, had something to say. A confession that would haunt him for the rest of his life. In a phone call, Smith had told his brother that he had hurt Carly. The details were almost too gruesome to repeat, but John knew he had to tell the police. The authorities listened in shock. As John recounted the confession, their worst fears realized. Following John's instructions, they located the place where Carly's body had been hidden and confirmed the unthinkable. Carly's discovery left Sarasota in mourning, a close-knit community forced to come to terms with an unspeakable loss. People who had never met Carly gathered to remember the girl with the bright smile who was taken too soon. At the trial, the court found Joseph Smith guilty, and he was sentenced to death. But Carly's case lingered, raising questions about the system and calls for change. Her story became a rallying cry for stronger protections, a powerful reminder of how quickly innocence can be taken away. Today, Joseph Smith remains incarcerated on death row, awaiting the ultimate punishment for his actions. Despite the years that have passed since Carly's tragic loss, Smith's life has been marked by isolation within the prison system, where he spends most of his days alone. Legal appeals and delays have prolonged his time in prison, but his fate remains unchanged. For Carly's family and the community, the slow pace of the justice system has been a painful reminder of the incident, forcing them to relive memories they'd rather leave behind. Smith has reportedly shown little remorse, and according to prison staff, his behavior is largely withdrawn. While some family members of victims often seek closure by understanding the motivations of those who commit such crimes, Carly's family has chosen to focus on preserving her memory and advocating for child protection. "We can't control his fate," Carly's mother once said, "but we can honor Carly by keeping her spirit alive in everything we do to protect others." Joseph Smith, the convicted killer of 11-year-old Carly Brucia, died in prison in 2021 while awaiting execution. Smith, who had been on death row at Florida's Union Correctional Institution, died at the age of 55, although the exact cause of death was not disclosed. The case of Carly Brucia's abduction in 2004 had attracted national attention, particularly due to surveillance footage showing Smith forcibly taking Carly from a car wash. A chilling moment that resonated across the US. The Florida Department of Corrections confirmed Smith's death, bringing a sense of closure to Carly's remaining family and the local community and sparing them further court proceedings and appeals. Ed Brodsky, the state attorney at the time, said that while Smith's death could not bring Carly back, it would prevent her family from being further traumatized by protracted legal proceedings.